Chant a psalm a day. 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 Greetings and welcome to Chant a Psalm a Day. Today's psalm is 15. Psalm 15. So if you know of that psalm, turn to that psalm. Psalm 15. Psalm 15 is titled Who? It's a question. And you know, it's a lot of questions that are asked of us. And this question that's asked of all of I and I today is who shall dwell on your holy hill? Now, for those of you who have watched this chant a psalm, know that I don't use the word holy. There's holes in there. I look at words as being purified in the fire at least 7 times. So I have to look at it again and again. All right? We're editors. So when we're looking at the psalm today, in the title, there is the word holy. So I look at that word and I translate that word into happy, into, Isla, into, Irie, good, nice, happy, joyful, all the wonderful things that gets our hearts in relaxed, pumping, mode of do good. That's what that heartbeat. So the psalm today is powerful in that it is looking at this place, this Isla place, and a place where it starts with ourselves. It starts with us. And this Isla place is one that we have to create for ourselves, and oftentimes we look outside ourselves for that. So looking within ourselves and within our own goodness and building that in by showing it to others is a good start. So I have my roasted roots. I'm in the Virgin Islands, and I'm, finished the workshop. I finished what I came to do. My university, sent me on this trip, and I learned quite a lot in terms of, writing research questions and having students learn how to do that. And they're learning how to do that from in K to 12. There's lesson plans and curriculums geared towards genealogy. So that is that's important, that to have the opportunity to learn how to teach genealogy from the perspective of family, and that family is first defined for children. What is a family? And I like that that's how that begins, because having a PhD in family studies, being a family scientist, studying families, learning by qualitatively interviewing families, I get a picture of what their lives are like, their lived experiences. So in this so that's where I'm at right now, chanting the psalm. It's almost 6 a.m. here. And I know there's a time change, there's a switch in the time, uh, with forward, spring forward, fall back, spring forward. I remember it that way. Uh, and this is how the economy is, maintained, that system of money and operating. That's why we have the days of the week, week. I don't speak weak words. I have to speak strong words. So, that's what it is. Uh, so the the psalm today is a psalm of David, and all of the psalms are not of David. They're written by the different ones, but this one is something that David wrote himself. Uh, the Most High is being spoken of at the beginning of this psalm, verse 1, O Lord. So it doesn't begin with anything else but that. And it's a question. It's talking, it's speaking to God. So this is a prayer. Those of you who use that word, David is speaking to the Most High. I was speaking to the Most High before I went to rest, and I actually fell asleep talking to the Most High. I was on the phone. I told the person to hold on while I go to talk to the Most High. And in that talking to the Most High, I went to rest. And I felt like I went to rest in the bosom of the Most High. I was so, comforted by that, you know, speaking, and that ability to speak and use words to express, a request from the Most High. And that request, I'll be honest, that request was, to send help, send strength, send strength to that is needed to get the work done. So the Most High is expressed in this psalm in verse 1 right out the gate. So, O Lord, O Most High, O Jehovah, O God, O Jesus, O Black Jesus, O Selassie the First, O Negus, however you want to call that one, that's your personal relationship. And when people are indoctrinated into one way, they discriminate others who are not that way. And we have to stop that. We have to be about, supporting each other and not having to, not support one another. We have to support one another. And in that supporting one another, we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant. So, verse 1 is asking a question, and it's using the word sojourn. And sojourn is a temporary stay. Temporary. And I spoke of that just first night, that this is temporary. the space that I'm in right now, how it is and how I want it to be, that's, temporary. So, sojourn, when the psalm talks about sojourn, it's a temporary place. It's, a space you're going to be in temporarily. So because of that, keep it clean, keep things, tidy. Right now, I have a lot of tidying up to do because it wasn't done while I was away, um, being a professor. So that's why it's needed. I need, an assistant. I need someone on here on the boots on the ground. So we look at this first verse as a question. Psalm 15 verse 1. It's a question. Who shall sojourn in your tent? Who is your? The Most High, the Almighty, the Lord, this verse 1 begins with, O Lord. And it's speaking of a tent, a place of shelter. That was the word during that time. Remember, it's a new song. We're chanting because we're in a new time here. And it's so amazing that the Most High, knows that and put that in place, and is speaking of that in these, words. So the Most High, David is asking, who shall sojourn in the Most High's tent? Who shall dwell in the Most High's holy hill? And I don't use the word holy hill. It sounds too close to holy hell. Right? And holy, and there's a hole. So we want to use words of liberation, words that liberate, not, oppress. And holy hill, oh goodness, I need to rest. Oh my gosh. When I return, I don't have class that next day, so I can rest that day, and I don't have office hours, so I can rest that day, and then Wednesday back to class. So, God willing. So, who shall dwell on this Isla hill, this happy hill? And when I look at the word hill, I'm looking at it's above, right? Who shall be at that high level energy? Who shall live there? Who shall dwell there in that happy place, that happy place? Who is going to be there? Not those who are angry, fussing, and carrying on with folks. And, that's not going to be those ones that are going to be happy. That's the opposite. The opposite of happy is, sad and angry, despair, depression, anxiety, all of these illnesses that are plaguing the world, that are keeping people oppressed and having to be dependent on, drugs or alcohol or sex or, something that is bringing themselves at a low energy, into their flesh. They're at this low energy with their flesh, and they don't seek for what's above. So verse 1 is asking the question, who is going to seek for that's above and be happy with that and satisfied and just, good. I'm good with that. Who is going to dwell in that space, in that place? And sojourning, and who is going to stop into that place temporarily, even if it's temporary? Who is going to be, in the Most High's space? Because remember, the Father's house has many mansions. right? The Most High, the Father and the Blessed Mother, has many mansions. And because of that, you may be dwelling, in a space temporarily, the way I am at where I'm at the university that I'm teaching at, in that space. That is temporary because the Most High led me and guided me to that space to do that work. And to do that work for students, basically black students at a HBCU, um, to support their learning so that they can support children's learning. And in doing that, I have gotten fought down, about it. Like, why did I go there? I'm paying more. I'm this. I'm that. I'm all of this. Why did I do that? However, sometimes we do things and other people they're not aware of our motives, and they get what they are thinking. So this is important, that this psalm is asking who is gonna be in that space. And my ultimate goal is to be in that space, doing the Most High's works. And in doing that, I have to be strong and keep going, even though the spaces that I'm occupying, I'm not, I may not be there in that space for a time, and it's not taken care of. So that's why I need an assistant. And I'm hiring an assistant, um, to come in, open the door, sweep, do the work in here, and so that I can have accountability, and it's not just me, but there's somebody else that is over, that is check and balancing what's happening in this business that I have. So that's what I was speaking to God about, the Most High Jah, about, before I went to rest first light. Send someone that is going to be able to, be here temporarily, sojourn in the Most High space, because that's what this space is. This space is for the Most High space. And who is going to dwell on the Most High's, high energy? Who's going to be up there in a high energy, happy energy, feeling a good energy? Who is going to be up there in that, what the psalm is speaking of, holy hill? I don't use the word holy hill. Happy place, this high above the earth place that is, not low down, not low, not, in this low energy, stay low space. So the question of who is going to dwell in this happy space is what's being asked. Yes. That's the question in the psalm today. So if you're just joining, This is Psalm 15. Who shall dwell on the Most High's happy hill, happy place? And you know, if you've listened to Chant a Psalm a day, you know I don't use pronouns and I use words of liberation that's going to uplift, that's going to set you free from the bondage of your own, your own brainwashing of these words and that are spells, basically, that keep people down. And words of liberation keep people up. It keeps people up and opened and awake. So as you listen to the roosters in the background, I have a background support. And I'm glad for that, because they echo what the Psalm spoke about yesterday. So subscribe to this channel so you can see the Psalm from yesterday talking about, everything on earth is going to give thanks, is going to make a shout to the Most High. Okay, Psalm 15, verse 2. And it's already 20 minutes and I'm just on verse 2. So who is he? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right and speaks truth in his heart. So Psalm 15 verse 2 answers Psalm 15 verse 1's question. The one who is going to sojourn in the Most High's tent and dwell in the Most High's happy place is going to walk blamelessly, is a one who walks blamelessly and does what is right. So 3 things: walks blamelessly, does what is right, and speaks through truth in that one's heart. So walking good, doing, and speaking. So in verse 2, we see there's a trinity of things that are being done: walking, doing, and speaking. And that is the answer to the question in verse 1. And now verse 3, it gets even more specific by looking at specific actions of the walking, doing, and speaking. Walking blamelessly, doing righteousness, speaking truth in our hearts. And verse 3, there's also another answer to that, to those questions. The one who does not slander with their tongue, using their tongue to talk about folks, slandering folks, talking about folks negatively. This is the one this is the answer to the question of who is going to sojourn in the Most High's place, who is going to dwell in the Most High's happy place. The one who is speaking, who is doing and walking, blamelessly, righteously, and truthfully. And that doesn't slander, talk about folks negatively, gossip with their tongue. They're using their tongue to, slander, instead of using their tongue to speak truth that's in their heart. They're not sharing their heart. Their heart may have been broken, by an earthly relationship of some sort, and now their heart is broken and they're not speaking truth anymore. They're just speaking what people want to hear, and what's in their heart is not being shared. So speaking truth that's in your heart, that's why I have to speak that the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart is acceptable in the sight of the Most High. That it's acceptable in the sight of the Most High. Because it may not be to folks, okay? It may not be to folks. And that's why we cannot live for folks, because that's what's going to happen. There's folks that are going to be out there slandering you with their tongue, talking about you, negatively, saying this about you, saying that about you, you know, etc., etc. So, and the one doesn't do, evil to their neighbor. So there's a list of things in verse 3 that the one who is going to sojourn in the Most High's tent and dwell in the Most High's happy place is a one who does no evil to his neighbor. Like, you're not doing evil to your neighbor, you're being a good neighbor. Nor taking up a reproach against a friend. And when we look at the word reproach, reproach is, disapproval, disappointment, addressing someone in a way disapproving, So the reproach, is not they do not take up a reproach against their friend. They don't disapprove, um they're not having this, they're not addressing their friend in such a way as to express, a disapproval or disappointment. They're lifting their friend up, in other words. Okay? They're lifting their friend up. They're not addressing them in that way. And this is what happened, as a matter of fact, to someone. Their friend addressed them in such a way as to express disapproval or disappointment about them not taking a flu shot or some kind of medical something, and made them, feel bad, I guess. And in doing so, they became, hostile. So when I read that, taking up a reproach against a friend, that's what happened. That, they address that person in disapproval, like putting them down because they made that choice. And when people make choices that are different from what we may make, we cannot put them to the slaughtering house or the firing squad and make them and put them down with disapproval and disappointment, like, oh, you're not, wearing your hair in a perm, I'm disappointed in you. Like, what? I make a choice how to, as long as I'm not out there, hurting folks, or slandering folks, or doing evil to a neighbor, nor taking up a reproach against a friend, going off with a person in disapproval and disappointment, putting them down, nor even doing that. And the person who is going to, who is going to sojourn in this place, in the Most High's place, and dwell in the Most High's, happy place, is the one in whose eyes a vile person is despised. So you don't love a vile person. And when we look at the word vile, we look at unpleasant. You don't take pleasure in unpleasantness or something that is unpleasant. that's nasty, foul. That's why I don't eat chicken, because it's a foul. I don't care how you make it seasoned up nice and smelling all good. I could eat some nice baked chicken, crispy. Uh-uh. Vile is foul. And according to the psalm here, you want to go deep and unpack that. Vile person is despised. And I'm not, those of you out there who eat chicken and eat this, I'm not saying I despise y'all, but that's what's gonna sojourn in the Most High's tent, right? That's who's gonna dwell in the Most High's hill, in the Most High's Isla place, that above happy place. Those who are depressed, in despair, in confusion, is in a low place, in a low energy. So we have to be in a high energy. And in doing that, we have to maintain that high energy, and maintaining it with food for the brain. However you want to call that, sustenance. So that is not going to be that foul person, a foul, nasty, because vile is also nasty, bad, horrid, horrible. These are the words that also mean vile, nasty. So that's why I'm so adamant about cleanliness, because cleanliness is next to that righteousness, and that righteousness is that what is going to enter into that Isla place, that tent. That's where you're going to sojourn, So when I'm not in this space, I would like to rent it to someone who is clean. And you have to pass the cleanliness test to, stay. You have a bathroom, you have a shower, you have a toilet, you have a sink, you have a refrigerator, you have a desk, you have a bed, you have an internet, you even have a printer. If you want to print from your phone, there's a printer, that you can use. And you can stay here while I am teaching away. So we can make it work. And when it comes to making it work, you have to be clean. Nasty, I do not want, because I'm building a house for the Most High. And in this building of this house, there is a cleanliness. And in that cleanliness, there's order, divine order. Divine order. Okay? So that one who is going to be in that place, that happy place, that place where they're happy, in that high above place, Michelle Obama said that when they go low, you go high, you stay, and that was real truth there. That you have to stay in a place of love, kindness, compassion, mercy. That is what that happiness is. Happiness is a mind thing, where you have to think of compassionate, merciful, graceful thoughts, so that happiness can then be part of you. And it'll be part of your actions, because your actions are going to be about mercy, compassion, and all that, to be able to bring about that feeling of happiness. And some people feel happy when they're giving to other people. Some people feel happy in that way. Happiness and feeling that needs to come from a high place so that you're not happy seeing other people unhappy. You know what I mean? You're not happy hurting another person physically, in a sociopathic, psychological way that is destroying another person's emotionally, physically. There's mental abuse, there's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's all of that. There's food abuse, where we feed children, feed them all this food. So there's these abuses, and we have to, be aware of that. So in verse 4, the question in verse 1 is still being answered in verse 4, because it's talking about the one who sees a vile person and is despised by that. However, the one who is going to sojourn in that most high place and dwell in that happy place is going to be that one that honors others who also fear the Most High, who also are following the Most High's righteousness and goodness. So that one is honored that fears the Most High and swears to his own hurt and does not change. Okay? Meaning that one talks about their own self. Okay? They're talking about their own self, their own hurt. And they don't change their righteousness. Their righteousness is they're always good. They don't let things bother them. When something negative comes in, they're, respectful and honest, and they don't change. They swear to their own hurt, talk about their own hurt. This has happened to me and I haven't changed. My son, I lost, I'm hurt, but I'm not going to let that change me to be a mean person. In verse 5, it speaks now even deeper, and money is involved in verse 5. Money is involved in verse 5. So it's talking about the one who is going to be in the Most High space and dwelling in the Most High's, happy space is going to be one who doesn't put out their money at interest. Meaning that when they put their money out, they just give it. They don't ask for it back, and it's a grant. Okay, they granting this because they see that there's a need. Okay, there's a need. And when organizations, there's, capitalism, I mentioned it before, capitalism and colonialism came together and, created the system of, white supremacy and this need to have things and to be things and to, do that. So in doing that, an interest-bearing system was created. And in that interest-bearing system, everything that you do is based on interest. A car, you have interest on. If you're paying it out one time, you don't have that interest. So it's set up so that you have to pay interest because the amount is so exorbitant. You're working and getting paid $50,000 a year, and the car you want is $50,000. You don't have $50,000 right now to pay that car, so you have to pay it on interest. And this is what was created out of that system of capitalism, colonialism. Okay. And it started with, human bodies. Human bodies were bartered and sold and, put on interest, and all that stuff was created from the enslavement of, Africans from Africa. So when we look at this verse 5, this is the final verse in this Psalm 15. And look at that, I'm gone for 40 minutes already, and I got to get going. The sunshine is coming out, and I got to get going to Sunday service. So we look at Psalm 15, verse 5, and it's talking about about money, and it's talking about bribe, the next sentence. So I'll read it how it's written. This is the one now who is, the question is being asked, who is going to be in the Most High space and dwell in the, the Most High's, happy place. And the one who is going to be there is going to be that one that does not take a bribe against the innocent. Okay? And innocent, that one is innocent, whatever that one is, but not taking a bribe. When we talk about bribe and money and bribe, that's what's been happening in our world. That's what capitalism and colonialism coming together has created, a space of bribe and money and bribe, and using money to get, people to do things. So that's what a bribe is, getting someone to do something and using money to do that. And sometimes that's something that's being wanting to be done is, assassinate someone. That's what happens. It's not a movie thing. That's, happens. And this one that may be assassinated may be innocent. And people are taking money to assassinate other folks that may be innocent. So that's why we are not to judge. We are not to take a bribe against the innocent. We're not to put our money out at interest. And, we need to give grants. I would love to, have $27 million and use that to give grants to families, and to, get to help them with their rent, to help them buy a home, to help them with their education, to help them with all these things, to help them with student loans, to help families pay this stuff, instead of taking the money and families are suffering, based on interest. I would love to give families grants just to pay their interest because of this verse 5, because money is put out at interest, and that's not what's going to be sojourning in the Most High's place or dwelling in that happy space. Those who put the money out at interest. So instead of doing that, I would have grants for families to pay interest. If families have interest on cars, on houses, on student loans, on anything that they have interest on, they can apply for a grant to pay that interest. Let's do that. Let's every nonprofit should be out here doing that. So I want the Love City Child and Family Center. That's a nonprofit that will be able to do that, to pay families, to pay the interest that families have. They have interest on their credit cards. We can pay that. And that way they will be in a position to be more competitive in this economic world that we live in. Their credit score will go up because you're paying off these interests for these families. Once their credit score goes up, they can attain more, lower interest. So helping pay their interest will help lower their interest in the future. I mean, come on now. So this Psalm 15 verse 5 really talks about, an important topic about life. And it ends with, he who does these things shall never be moved. So it it just ends with that. It doesn't end with Selah. It just ends, the one who does all these things, who walks blameless, all this from verse 2 to 4 to 5, who does all these things shall never be moved. That means they shall never be angry. They should never be violent against someone for owing them money, whatever, you know what I mean? They're not going to get into this way. They're going to be good and happy because of all these things that they need to do to get into that place of the Most High, of the that Isla space, and not this low energy, sitting, smoking weed, getting high, playing video games, watching movies, these low energy things. Come, if you're doing that, come, you can help me, with my office, that I need help with. I need help with my office, and I need an office assistant. So $25 an hour, you work for 10 hours, 3 days, you pick and you come here to this office and you clean up. You start with the books. So you have now till May. I'll be returning in May, and that's when the summer workshop starts. By then, my office assistant will be helping doing that. So I'm getting that on board. And I need a young person to do that, and I could mentor them in the process as well as an assistant professor. So plus I have a research project, a family research project. I'm looking for a research assistant on that. We're cataloging family photographs and stuff that my uncle Oswin, God rest his soul, who passed away, has left behind, a treasure trove of things. So we're going to, get a grant to dig deep into that story, because that's important. And who better to be the PI on that, the principal investigator, but a family member. So we're looking, to partner with a nonprofit, preferably St. John Heritage Corporation on St. John, to get this done, and create a document that could be used for future generations. So when we look at this Psalm, Selah and Selah again, it ends with, when you do all these things, you shall never be moved. You won't be upset, angry. You will be happy. You will be in a happy state of mind. So thank you for joining Chant a Psalm a day. We're going to look now quickly at the word of the day that's timeless. The word of the day is timeless. And in timeless moments, in the silence, I discover I and I self anew. Here we have new again. So it's bringing yourself anew, anewing yourself, right? Having a new mindset that you can break the shackles of doubt, despair, anger, depression, anxiety. You can break that and enter into a place where you're discovering yourself as a new person, a new, risen from the dead. You've awakened. You've awakened to your goodness, your own goodness, and oh wow, I have good thoughts. Oh my goodness, I'm speaking good words. Oh my goodness, I'm doing good works. I'm holding the door open for someone. I'm holding the elevator for someone. I'm picking up trash around my community. Oh, I'm cleaning up my office space and helping, you know, Dr. Sewer, that's me, helping Dr. Sewer as her office assistant. I'm getting $250 every Friday, cash app in my account every Friday, 250 to be an office assistant. That's extra money someone can get, a student, whoever. I need help. Help. Okay. Uh So this psalm is about a new. This word of the day, timeless, is about a new. I relax and let go, withdrawing my attention from my surroundings. Breathing deeply and rhythmically, my mind relaxes and my heart opens. And this happened to me. I had to stop and breathe. When I did that, I could feel myself relaxing and my mind going into a calm state and my heart opening. Because you can give yourself a heart attack, you can. When you're to that point of stress, it can hurt your heart. So you want to breathe deeply and rhythmically, and and your mind is going to relax and your heart is going to open. So you enter, I enter a sacred inner sanctuary. So that sacred inner sanctuary is sacred. People try to get into it and get you to, go in a different way of not calmness and want, to react. So you want to know that sacred sanctuary is like a fortress. Is nothing can come in there to move it, as the psalm speaks of. When you do all these things, you're not going to be moved. So I enter I sacred inner sanctuary. Here I have no awareness of time. I hear no words. I think no thoughts. I feel no separation. There is only the richness of silence, the awesome presence of infinite life, love, and wise mind. I am one with this presence. The time and attention I devote to I regular practice of meditation builds deep, abiding love and clarity in I consciousness. In these timeless moments, I discover I have all I need, enough strength, standing firm, love, and time to progress along I path and accomplish all that is I to do. So this word of the day, timeless, is supported by Revelation chapter 21, verse 1. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Check that out. What do y'all think about that? Revelation. So I love that because I have a new art piece I'm working on, and it's called The Black Mermaid Revelations. And in this Revelations, we see her face. I'm going to be, drawing her face. We see, she's revealed in all her magnificence. And the Black Mermaid is powerful. She goes deep. This is copywritten. I copywrote this before Disney came out with their Black Mermaid, and I even pitched it to Disney. I had pitched them that idea, but I needed an agent to go through with them to do that. So they went ahead and they just readapted the Little Mermaid and just put that character in it. They didn't look at the historical underpinnings of the Black Mermaid. They just kept that story of the Little Mermaid from Hans Christian Andersen. Yeah, so Hans Christian Andersen wrote that book, The Little Mermaid. So they took it from that. Um, so Revelations. It's interesting that the word of the day is supported by Revelations 21, verse 1, and new. So discovering yourself anew is looking at seeing that new place of heaven and this new earth. And that, that can all be so powerful in itself when it comes to, your new mindset and having that higher energy thoughts and putting stuff in your eyesight that is not foul or nasty, that is clean and good by doing those actions. So the verse of the day is coming from First Peter today, chapter 3, verse 15. I think it says here. Let me turn this on. Chapter 3, verse 15. And it says, but in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Okay, in your hearts. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. So let's unpack that. First Peter chapter 3, verse 15. Folks are going to come up to you and ask you, why do you have such a future, such a good outlook of the future? Because that's what hope is. Hope is, a good outlook for a good future. And that when they come and ask you that, don't be, disrespectful to them. Be gentle and let them know of the Most High. Let them know that what's in your heart, that's going to come out in your mouth, right? And that is what is important, because people are not living their true authentic self. What's in their heart is not what they're projecting to the public, because they want to have a persona of, whatever they feel is acceptable or valued more in the world. And we find that in families. The genealogy workshop expressed that in terms of families changing their names so it's not ethnic, it is more acceptable in the space that they're living in, and they find that that's more valued. I had family members on my paternal side who passed for white and left the Virgin Islands to New York, and a whole different identity. So when we're talking about family trees and, family history, and teaching this to children and how we can teach those curriculums to children, this workshop yesterday was just off the magnificent chain. It just dropped the mic on everything. And now with my pies can be generated. The app that I'm creating can be generated into these curriculums all across the world. Any curriculum, they can pop the pies in there and boom, you can look at these domains to express, or have children express how they are, what they like, that is supporting their growth in these domains, right? Is violent video games part of that? Or sitting and watching TV part of that, or is getting up and being active and going outside and exploring and discovering and, being scientists and discoverers and investigators? In genealogy, they're investigators, right? And so they're called investigators. They investigate. That's what scientists do. And as a family scientist, that's what I do. And I was fortunate to be able to go to this workshop. Thank you, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. So this First Peter, excuse me. Oop, I'm out of tea. This First Peter, chapter 3, verse 15, the fan is on me too, is basically drop the mic and revering. What is revere? R-E-V-E-R-E. Reverence, right? It's deep respect for someone or something, right? So having that in your heart for Christ, for God, for the Most High, for goodness, righteousness, mercy, kindness, all of that, having that in your hearts and making that your Lord, right? Not this, don't look at the messenger, but look at the message. People get to, either they hate the messenger or they hate the message, or they love the messenger and they love the message. So it could be a variety of things. And sometimes it gets twisted. We look at the messenger and we worship and we create all this stuff to worship the message. And it's like, no, we have to look at the righteousness and the actions of that messenger and take that message to work for us. Take it to work for you. So First Peter chapter 3 verse 15, we have to have that deep respect in our hearts for the Most High's righteousness, goodness, and mercy and kindness. That's why some folks that call Jesus, they're not merciful, compassionate, kind. They're not sharing that. And we have to share that, not just when we're in our Sunday service in church, but outside of the church, to folks, to people who don't know what that looks like and don't act that way. We have to be that example. So here ends the chant of Psalm today. That was the verse of the day today. That was, oh my goodness. This is I need a bigger desk, a longer desk. So that longer desk will enable me to put more things on it, because I have two laptops, you know what I mean? And when someone is working in my office, they need space. They're gonna need space. So I need to get some space. Okay. That was trash. Where did that come from? Anyway, let's go out with Chant a Psalm a day. We are at an hour 104. That's my first son's birthday, January 4th, and that's the time we're at, 104. So I'm gonna go ahead and chant a psalm a day.
Verbo is for sharing all kinds of moments.
And you all have a blessed day. Have a blessed day, everyone.